What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Talking Monday, August 5th, 8-game MLB slate, and joined as usual on Monday by the one and only JT Hayes Jr. JT, how you doing on this Monday afternoon?
Doing good. It's hot here in Atlanta. It's going to be wet throughout most of the East Coast, but we don't have to worry about weather today generally, so that's positive. So everything good. Glad to see that you're back. You made it back in one piece. Mountains look stunning behind you. That beautiful Chicago Cubs hat.
Yes,
that is a classic. By the way, that's not a lion. That's a Cub on there. For those of you that can't tell the difference, it's good to be here.
Yeah, I got this hat when we were in Chicago together, and I think you were with me. There must have been like 3 or 4 people who commented that they thought it was a Detroit Lions hat, Lions fan. So I guess maybe chose poorly on my hat attire, but it is what it is. And you know what? I'll ride with this hat until it's time to get a new one. Maybe for football season, JT. I think I need to get back in on the Chiefs hat bandwagon once football gets a little bit closer here. So not a football show. I do find these shows, whoever my guest is, getting just a little bit of football talk, more and more each day. We're getting excited for it. Just a month away now. So we'll get there when we get there. But for now, we got more baseball to talk about, another couple of months to go. And today's 8-game slate on tap. It is the 25-minute earlier start. DraftKings did include the 3 early games on the main slate. So we do have a little bit earlier lock today. With that, let's jump into it. First game of the night, Arizona and the Cleveland Guardians. Zach Gallen going for Arizona. Lefty Logan Allen going for the Guardians. Potential rain here. I do think it's going to be just fine, but something to monitor as lock gets closer. This game, essentially a toss-up in the betting market. Both teams projected for around 4.25 runs. JT, I'll throw it right over to you. What are you doing tonight with Guardians and Diamondbacks?
Yeah, definitely no Logan Allen for me here. He was down in the minor leagues. We'd been interested a couple of times this season with Logan Allen when he was in the 5K range and against a weak opponent. That's not the case tonight. He's 8,400 against one of the best hitting teams, team with the best record in the National League, I think, over the last month, 5 weeks, the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're coming off a massive series against the Pirates yesterday, taking out Paul Skeens and beating the Pittsburgh Pirates. So no Logan Allen for me. I'm really interested in the Arizona offense. They're not generating, in my opinion, the kind of ownership that they should be on this slate. I know all about the Guardians bullpen, but if they get to Logan Allen early, I do think that you're going to see the weakest arms. Not that they're all that weak from the Cleveland side, but they've hit everybody, right? They put the ball in play against Paul Skeens yesterday. I think they can put some runs up here. On the other side, Zach Gallen, he hasn't been the same Cy Young contender type pitcher as he was last year. He's battled some injuries this season, and this Cleveland team, who was struggling a couple of weeks ago against right-handed pitching in particular, all of a sudden, they're absolutely smashing right-handed pitching. They did so to the Baltimore Orioles all weekend long. I think this is an underrated game for offense. I think people are going to look at Zach Gallen, think of the name, think of what they think of him as a pitcher that Zach Gallen should be. I think this is a dangerous spot for Zach Gallen and the Arizona bullpen. So I like both sides of this game offensively.
Yeah, I'm with, especially on the Guardian side. It seems to be the case that like these kind of bigger name pitchers, which I think Zach Gallen qualifies for that. Not that anybody is really going to play Zach Gallen tonight, I don't think, but typically the offenses against these pitchers kind of go under own. It is something I'm trying to attack just a little bit more, right? Because some of these offenses, like the Guardians will tonight, we think, they just go very, very low owned in a matchup that, I see no reason why they couldn't have a big day here. Gallen also has some pretty severe splits where he's much better at home this year. That's been the case for most of the years of his career. And yeah, we know this Guardians team can put the ball in play, can do some damage. They've got enough power. Obviously, addition of Lane Thomas helps a little bit. So I'm with you on the Guardians being a pretty sneaky stack here, pretty good place to hit as well in Cleveland today. One of the warmer days that we've seen for baseball in Cleveland really all year long. So I do like the Guardians. And I do like the Diamondbacks against Logan Allen, like you mentioned. Just the tough thing is the bullpen of the Guardians. I do think they're going to do damage against Allen. And like you said, if they get to him really early, they won't have to face the best arms. But it is just a little bit of a deterrent going to the D-backs bat. So, more Diamondbacks for me. I'm not playing either of these pitchers, I don't think. And, Saul says Gallen 20% projected ownership on Saber. So you get some leverage, too, with the Guardians if you do want to go that direction. I see you smiling over there, JT. What do you got to say? You said
so I don't know. I got to tell a little story here because I don't know Saul. Saul's obviously one of our guys here. But he came in it was this one day last week and maybe actually a week and a half ago. He bashed us, DC. He bashed us because we were playing Kyle Freeland. I don't know if you were with me. I know it was at least me and Steve.
I did not play Freeland that day, but I do remember the day that it happened.
Yes. Yeah. So Kyle Freeland, what did he do that day? I don't know. I mean, it was equivalent to a complete game shutout. He had like 30 something. It was crazy what he did. It actually was 26. He got the win. And then, instead of just being like, yep, you guys were right, he attacks me for my love of the DK Live app. So, I mean, I love the interaction, but, and then today, and we'll get to this when we get to that game. Today, he's talking about wanting to play Patrick Corbin. Now, DC, Patrick Corbin against the Giants or Kyle Freeland against the Angels. So let me ask this, what is more insane? Patrick Corbin against the Giants or Kyle Freeland against the Angels?
I gotta agree with you here. I think you're on. And listen, the results already proved it, right? You got the 26 fantasy points. That's it's a.
It was by the way it was a tough pitching slate like tonight is, and he was the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. So yeah. But anyway, Saul, we love you. Just saw that in there. He's been more active, and we love to see it in the MLB chat. He's gonna jump in the MLB streets here, and it's fantastic. But yes, you're right in terms of what Gallen's ownership, like on this slate, right? When you look at some of the pitchers, and in particular, we'll talk about some of the pricing here, and you see Zach Gallen at 8,600, your inclination is like last year, I'd be all over him. I'm not going to go there. I don't know if I'm going to X him from my 150, but he's definitely not getting anywhere near my main lineups.
Yeah. Similar case there. And I don't think Patrick Corbin's getting to 26 fantasy points tonight, but we'll see. Got to play the games and see how they play out. We'll get to that game after we talk about Cincinnati and Miami. This one in Miami in the Dome, we know not a great place to hit in general. Roddery Munoz is going to be going for the Miami Marlins. One of the cheaper pitchers today, I think for good reason, coming in at 6,600. He is coming off his best start of the year, 22 DraftKings points against Tampa Bay. Typically, they let him throw around 90 pitches is where you usually see Munoz at. I guess, I don't really want to make it. I guess someone could make the case for Munoz here against the Reds in the pitching. Yeah, doesn't sound like you're going to go that way either. And then Nick Martinez going for Cincinnati. He's been kind of in and out of the bullpen all year long. I think we'll see at most, 60 pitches out of Nick Martinez for me. Not really in play either. But that said, I don't have a ton of interest in the bats in this game, just given, the great hitting environments we've got on a few of these games. I don't think I'm going to go to too much Reds or Marlins for hitters either. Most of the game I'll just be kind of moving on from, and 8 games to choose from. Don't have to play everything. What are you doing, though, JT, with the Reds and Marlins here?
Yeah, difficult in terms of the Reds because you got Martinez and you're going to have a couple of guys come in after him. It's more of a bullpen game, which we generally don't like to target, particularly when it's against weaker teams like the Marlins, even though they did absolutely smash over the weekend against the Atlanta Braves. As far as Munoz, betting market is very low on him and with good cause. I think this is a nice little letdown spot here for him. And because of the performance that Edward Cabrera put up yesterday against the Braves, the Marlins bullpen is very fresh. Certainly not going to be hesitant about going into that bullpen pretty quickly if he struggles. I do like Reds minis here. I think the one thing that stands out, and you talk about it all the time, DC, is these guys are just thieves on the base passes. They are absolute monsters. And I think you can steal bases certainly on Nick Fortes, if he's the catcher today, anybody else who gets behind the plate for the Marlins. So I think Reds minis make a lot of sense. Marlins bullpen has actually been not the worst in the game. I think there's a couple of worse bullpens on this slate. So I am interested in the Reds here a little bit. Not much else in this game.
Yeah, I think the Reds are mostly just a bet against Roderick Munoz, who I do think is certainly capable of just kind of collapsing, and obviously the Reds could get there that way. It's just tough for me to go to hitters in this park, given the difficulty of hitting home runs in particular, and obviously trying to get to the top, a little bit hard to do without those. That does bring us to the aforementioned Patrick Corbin pitching for the Washington Nationals. In D.C., he's going to be 90 degrees, humid, winds blowing out. So ball should be flying here in Washington, D.C. We got the lefty Corbin and Logan Webb pitching for the Giants, coming off a complete game shutout against the A's, his best outing of the year. And Webb, kind of like Zach Gallen, has some pretty severe splits, even career-wise, where pitches like a legitimate ace in San Francisco and something quite a bit less than that in general when he's on the road. But he does get a pretty good matchup against the Nationals. I think he is at least in consideration. And we already know you're not going to Patrick Corbin, but the Giants, JT, we see whoever goes up against Corbin, pretty much every slate is one of the more popular teams on the slate. I do think that'll be true tonight as well. I imagine a lot of people going to the Giants. And frankly, I've got quite a bit of interest there myself. What are you doing, JT, with Giants and Nationals here?
First of all, I didn't murder you. We're all having this in good fun. Like I said, love to see you in the MLB chat. Yeah, the one thing here, so let's start with Logan Webb. Coming off that complete game shutout, it was against the Oakland A's. I think we rostered him pretty heavily that night. He was one of the best pitchers on the slate. DC, I don't feel the same way here about Logan Webb. I think I look at him more as a guy that I'm going to have in my pool simply because I think he might be able to get to 20 fantasy points. And when you look at projections, when you look at the betting market, it is very, 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 very low on almost all the pitchers on this slate. It's Glass now and then everybody else. There's some others that I think you can make a case for. Logan Webb is a guy that I'll have in my pool, but he's not a priority for me. This is a Washington team that still does not strike out a ton. Yes, Dylan Cease threw a no-hitter against them. That's Dylan Cease. That's not Logan Webb's game. Logan Webb's game is if he's got the movement on the two-seamer, he's going to get a couple of strikeouts, right? Maybe a few extra. This team, it's difficult to strike out. You look at the other side of this game, and what we've got here more than anything else is a popular San Francisco Giants stack. And that is something that I don't love just because of first of all, if Corbin gets in trouble, I don't think there's a single left-hander. There may be one in that bullpen. So you're going to have some of the Giants coming out of this game if Corbin gets in trouble. His numbers in the market have been moving up as if people in the market are coming up on him maybe a little bit high, which is probably more of a reason to play the Giants than anything else. Not a lot of Corbin for me. First of all, he's expensive for what his capabilities are. But I'm going to be a little bit careful with the Giants in terms of who I put, how many five-man stacks in multi-entry, and really prefer them more for mini stacks than anything else. And Washington is going to stay in my pool for main five-man stacks. Just not a ton of, I don't think one way or the other about the San Francisco bullpen. There's some good pieces at the back end, but Washington has been a sneaky team offensively for most of the season.
Yeah, I played a lot of Nats this year. Obviously some hits, some misses there, but I do go to them, I think, more often than the field does. And I don't think they're the craziest contrarian stack. I know they obviously traded away Lane Thomas. They were sellers at the trade deadline, but it does seem, it's a pretty young lineup, and it doesn't seem like some of the other bad teams around the league, they don't seem to have mailed it in. They do seem like a team that they'll at least go out there and battle for your money a little bit. So I don't hate the Nationals. I'm sure they'll be super low owned against Logan Webb in a great hitting environment. And then the Giants are tough, like you mentioned. They are going to be, I assume, very popular. It's not the greatest group of hitters in the world. The problem, though, I think with fading him is when it goes bad for Corbin, which Obviously, it oftentimes does.
Yeah.
It's a lot of power that he gives up, right? I mean, usually it's home runs. You can really run on him as well. Giants have a little bit of speed throughout their lineup, and it's a recipe for fantasy success too.
And people ask this question, and someone put it in here, right? Let's see where okay. My buddy Myers, who is a word I can't say, but my buddy Myers, he knows what he is. They let Corbin get rocked for 10 runs and 10 hits last start, though. You saw what the Nationals did with Strasburg, right? This is a vengeful organization. They are so mad that they gave Patrick Corbin all that money, and he has sucked so bad. They're like, here's the ball, motherfucker. We'll come get you when we think you're done. And so it could get very ugly for Patrick Corbin, as it often does this season. And I get that point. Maybe that's a reason to leave those Giants 5-mans in a little bit more, because the Nationals are so pissed at Patrick Corbin. I think they enjoy it, DC. I think they get a perverse enjoyment out of seeing him suffer on the mound until he gets to 101 pitches. And then they deliver the mercy.
If I had to sign the check for Patrick Corbin's, I don't know, $200,000 every 2 weeks, yeah. I demand the manager leave him out there too. Make him take his lump. He's gonna, keep cashing my check. So yeah, it does make sense there. And yeah, like you said, they let him eat it for sure, and probably will be the case tonight as well. And yeah, I think remembering that.
McLaughlin telling me it's a free show. I don't know if that means that I shouldn't be cursing, or that I should be not maybe giving out as much detail as I'm giving out. I'm not sure what that means, McLaughlin. Anyway, go on, DC.
Yeah, no, just to wrap it up, I think you got to have, if you're playing multiple lineups, you got to have some interest in the Giants. Maybe you can go to the back half of that lineup, get some cheaper bats, maybe lower exposure as well. We'll move on, though, to Minnesota and the Chicago Cubs. This one in Chicago. Should be pretty good pitching weather here, 75 degrees, some humidity, but most importantly, winds, pretty strong winds blowing in from center field in Chicago. So it should play pitcher friendly, which is certainly good for Kyle Hendricks, running out there every 5 days as well. He got his ERA below 7, so good for Kyle Hendricks. Unfortunately for the Twins offense, the weather not going to cooperate maybe to really get to Hendricks. And then rookie for the Twins, David Festa, will pitch. The Twins have been really cautious with his pitch count. He has made 4 outings at the big league level, but hasn't got above 81 pitches in any of them. I'm not quite sure what the Twins are doing there. They do have a strong bullpen behind him. And I do think Festa is a reasonable play tonight at that $6,100 price tag. Obviously not a great lineup from the Cubs, good pitching weather. It's just really the duration, the pitch count with Festa that I'm kind of most worried about. Curious your thoughts on Festa. I assume you're not playing Hendricks, and then what are you doing with the bats here with Cubs and Twins, JT?
Yeah. Festa, the argument you make is exactly the concern here. He's only showing about a 15% ownership now, but I do think that goes up a bit. The biggest challenge on this slate is who else do you play? If you're playing in that $155, which I am, right? You don't want to have 85%. We'll talk about Glasnow when we get to him. But you're going to have a mix. And is he in the mix? Yeah, he's probably in the mix. The other guy who is going to be in my pool is Kyle Hendricks. Mm-hmm. And for the reason you mentioned, he's not going to be a heavily owned piece. But for the reason you mentioned, weather blowing in, and I've been saying this, right? The Minnesota Twins coming off a weekend series against the Chicago White Sox, who, it's like going back to high school to play for a weekend if you're the Minnesota Twins hitters. And I just think this is an opportunity where Hendricks is 5'9". He's going to be unowned. He's a pretty big favorite to get through 5 innings here. And if he can keep them off balance, he could be one of the best point per dollar pitchers on the slate. It's not something I love. I don't often talk about Kyle Hendricks in favorable terms. And I think the best I could say is he's going to remain in my pool How much of him I get? Probably not a whole lot. But I do think, especially in a close game, DC, if this game plays out the way the market thinks that it's going to play out, you're going to be looking at a 2-1 game, maybe a scoreless game going into the 5th inning. And you would say, well, that's great for Festa. It's terrible for Festa because they're going to get him out of there at his 75 pitches and bring in the bullpen for the last 3. In terms of offense, I think this, the mini stacks will stay in my pool, but don't have a lot of interest here in 5 minutes.
Yeah, a couple notes. Festa in the minor leagues, the Twins did regularly let him go 80-plus pitches, had a high of 93 in his last AAA start. So I think it's at least possible they let him go deeper into the games. The Twins did use 5 relievers yesterday. So, like I said, if it's close, I still do think it'll be a 5-and-dive type thing for Festa, but at least possible he could get through 6, especially if the Twins are up several runs. I think would be the most, his best chance to go deeper. And yeah, I mean, 6,100 in this environment in Wrigley Field, I do think he's a decent play. I can't hate the Hendricks play too much, but I do certainly prefer Festa between the two. I assume it'll be Festa that's higher owned.
Festa's, but honestly, neither one of them are showing. I think Festa will get steamed. I think between now and lock, I think people are going to look around and start to build, and we'll settle on him at 6,100. I don't know what he comes in at. I'm gonna guess 25 to 30%, and I'm fine being there or even a little bit under.
Yeah, Sabres got Festa at 9% right now. I don't see any way. I just don't think that's gonna prove true. And he's a lot different play at 9% than he is at the 25 that you mentioned. So we'll see. He's coming in hot with the Festa Hendricks stuff.
Like I mentioned, Hendricks is going to be my pool, and then he has to take it one step further. He has to one-up me and say, no, that's not enough. You've got to jam both of these guys, which is not what I said. That's what Big T said. If anything happens bad to you tonight, it is his fault and not mine.
There we go. Big T. We'll let Big T be the Kyle Hendricks Festa guy, and we'll just ride on the periphery of the coattails on that one.
Stephen Christen, we're gonna teach Stephen Christen about math. Stephen, yes, he has a 1 strikeout higher prop. He doesn't have an out prop though. So do me a favor, go and Myers told me that, and I did laugh my ass off at him earlier today, but things have changed. So go see if you can find an out prop on David Festa and compare that to Kyle Hendricks out prop. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There we go. We'll move on to Houston and Texas up next. We got the lefty Andrew Heaney going for the Rangers. Hunter Brown going for Houston. Hunter Brown, I feel like I've played a ton of him this year. It seems like he has he gets to pitch in Oakland, in Seattle, just all these good matchups. A little bit tougher here going up against the Rangers. This one, a true pick'em in the betting market. Both teams projected for around 4.2 runs.
Oh boy. Holy shit. All right. So let me fix the banner. Let me fix the viewpoint here. Give me a second. Oh, he's coming back. All right. Whenever he gets back, we'll get back. That was crazy. All right. So, all right, Festa. I didn't see the outs prop for. Okay, he's not coming back. McLeod's got him something. Give me a second. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So, what were we talking about before DC rudely interrupted us? It was the Cubs hat. So, So Festa, Hendricks. All right. 14.5 minus 175 for Hendricks. Here's the thing with the Hendricks play. That is as high as you're going to see an out prop for Kyle Hendricks. It usually does not get like that. There's Big T. So that's the bottom line with why I mentioned he'll be in my pool. I don't know if you're going to see them on my main teams, but DC, we were just about to get to the Astros and the Rangers, starting with pitching. It is Hunter Brown against Andrew Heaney, and I will tell you, 9,600 Hunter Brown. I know he's been good the last couple of months. A lot of that driven by the teams that he's had to play against. I don't like Hunter Brown at 9,600 here in this spot. I do have some interest in Andrew Heaney. I do have some interest in the Texas bats. What are your thoughts on the Astros and the Rangers?
I mean, I was just coming on to talk about my two heroes, Vesta and Hendricks. I mean, I don't know who these other pitchers are you're talking about. Other games.
Well, those are the only pitchers you have eyes for tonight. Is that?
I was just coming on to talk about them in Oakland facing Kyle Busch. I thought he was a NASCAR driver. He's coming to pitch against Oakland.
Listen, that's where the White Sox are at, Big T. If you, it's almost like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, but for people who aren't dying. If you are interested in pitching, the White Sox will take your call. They will take your call. They'll see what you can do. They'll give you an opportunity. I mean, no worries. No worries.
I mean, I don't even know who that guy is. So what game are we talking about? Texas?
Oh, right. Texas. The Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros. By the way, VIP, if you didn't already know this, VIP is naked in a bath of Crisco oil right now because we're talking about the Rangers and Andrew Heaney in positive tones. And, I mean, someone drop a flame in there or something. This guy, when you talk about the Rangers, he gets all lit up. Go on.
I'm still traumatized by that his name's not VIP. I called him VIP for 4 years, and it's freaking VIP. I'll be traumatized forever.
His name is what? First of all, the reason why I think it's VIP is because he shows us these pictures of his Louboutin shoes and all these other things, the big slides at his house. I mean, his name is VIP. That's what I call him. That's what the name is.
That's what I'm calling him forever.
And he may not exist if someone drops a flame in the avocado oil that he's dousing himself with to get all lathered up for Andrew Heaney tonight.
I'm leaving you back with DC now that he's here, though. I was just coming in if I was needed. I'm not ready out of the bullpen yet. I still got to get warmed up in the Discord.
Give a few more throws, Big T. And come back.
I'm gonna get loose. I'm gonna log out and watch you guys again, though.
Hang up and listen. All right. DC, I'm not interested in Hunter Brown. I am interested in the Texas Rangers here. And I do have some interest in Andrew Heaney after 2 very bad games. This Astros team getting shut down by mediocre pitchers for the last couple of weeks. They don't strike out a lot, but they really haven't been doing a whole lot else against anybody, particularly left-handers. What are your thoughts here on that game?
Yeah, kind of with you on the Astros. Just kind of sick of them at this point. But I think on paper it looks like a decent spot for the Astros, so I don't mind it.
That was a funny day. That was a funny day because, come on.
No such thing as too cheap for the negative 2.5. That's for sure.
He was priced just right that day. He was priced just right. I
do prefer the Astros side of it for bats over Texas, but I'm kind of with you. Not a huge amount of interest in this game. Not going to play Heaney. I think Brown is fine, but for me, overpriced a little bit at 9.6K. And then, I think the Astros bats are reasonable plays for sure. I'll take back over my hosting duties, JT.
Take back. That's a fun 5 minutes.
Yeah. Boston, Kansas City up next. Big total in this one, sitting at 10. Really, really good hitting weather in Kansas City tonight. Going to be, 95 degrees, humid, winds blowing out. We see Kauffman Stadium play really hitter-friendly when you do get these super warm days, especially when the wind is favorable. So should be a good day for the bats in Kansas City. Brady Singer going for Kansas City. I still kind of think he's just generally overrated, but, we're into August now, and he's still got an ERA below 3. So he has pitched well. I personally don't think he's as good as his numbers would suggest. And I don't mind Boston here. I like Boston in general against most right-handed pitchers, including Singer. Not a great bullpen behind him either. And then James Paxton, who was released by the Dodgers, signed by the Red Sox. I'm glad to back see him on another team because I feel like I haven't quite gotten paid stacking against James Paxton like I feel like I deserve, JT. But maybe tonight because I do like the Royals. I like the Red Sox. I really like both of these offenses. And I think a game stack's in play here as well. 2 pretty bad bullpens. The Red Sox in particular have been, I think, worst or second worst bullpen in the league over the last 30 days. So I'm all about this game for offense. I see you nodding. Sounds like you might have interest here as well. Red Sox and Royals, JT.
Yeah, definitely on the Boston side. I think the estimators for Brady Singer show that his ERA should be about a run and a half higher than it is, and he's benefited those home road splits. He's been good at home generally against weaker teams, right? So when they've played the White Sox at home, the A's earlier in the season, he's good against those teams. Against other teams, he got destroyed. I think it was by Cleveland at home, either Cleveland or Baltimore. So I like this Red Sox side. Chalk, popular Royals. I mean, they're not, 14%, whatever they're projected to be. I think some of these guys individually, like Bobby Witt, as we've seen almost every game, going to come in a lot higher. A little worried about the stack when it gets this popular, especially when you look at some of the prices with Bobby Witt now in the mid-6s, Pasquantino at 5, Sal Perez at 5-1. So I'm going to be under the field on Royal stacks, but over the field on Red Sox stacks, and probably not much of either pitcher in this one.
Yeah, I don't think either of these pitchers will be very popular, but certainly the offenses will be, and I will be going to this game myself for plenty of the bats in my own lineups. But that is Boston KC should be one of the more popular games for offense on the slate. Just two more games to talk about as we do move over to the West Coast for the White Sox and the Oakland A's. Bit of a seller battle here between these two squads. We do have JP Sears going for Oakland, who's a big favorite over the White Sox and Kai Busch. Have the White Sox won yet, or are they like 20 straight losses?
20 straight losses. 20 straight losses.
It's getting ugly for the White Sox. It really has been all year, but doesn't seem to be getting any better. And, I mean, you kind of have to consider any pitcher that's going up against a team that has lost 20 games in a row, right? I think that's fair to say. I do think JP Sears going to get some ownership tonight, and I think you should against this horrific ball club. White Sox Kai Busch is interesting too. Going to make his MLB debut. It has not gone well for him in Double-A, but he is 4K. He is a starting pitcher, and he too gets at least a high upside matchup, right? We have seen Oakland put up a lot of runs, but they have a lot of strikeouts in that lineup as well. So yeah, I think both of these pitchers are at least in consideration. Certainly think Sears is the better option between the two, but he's twice as expensive. So I could see making the case for either of these guys. What are you doing, JT, with White Sox and A's here?
Yeah, we always want to shy away from offense in this park, but we've seen this is a different Oakland A's team than they were last year and even the year before. And over the course of the last month, over the course of the last 2 weeks, over the course of the last week against left-handed pitching, this Oakland A's team does two things. They absolutely do not strike out, and they put the ball over the fence. The lineup just came out. It's a little bit of a different lineup, but you still have Rooker, Langoliers, Geloff in there, Cameron leading off where he's been decent at that position. No Larry Butler, I guess, is the one difference here in that lineup tonight. But then you have some cheaper pieces at the bottom. Miguel Andujar, if you want to play him, it's usually against the lefty. So I really like Oakland here in this spot. Not just because it's Kai Busch, who, when you look at his minor league numbers, completely mediocre in the minor leagues. Like every now and then there's a big strikeout game, but usually accompanied by a bunch of runs. And what we've focused on the last 2 weeks is whether it was Seattle who came into Minnesota or came into Chicago not hitting at all, or whether it was Minnesota this past weekend. Once you get past whoever the starting pitcher is that they roll out, now that they've traded Michael Kopech, now that they've traded Tanner Banks, this bullpen does not have major league talent in there, and it usually gets ugly. And if the A's, if the projections that I'm looking at in terms of their ownership are going to be where they come in at, which is behind teams like the Giants, the Royals, and some of these other teams, not saying that they're not in good matchups, but I think this is the best matchup out of all of them. So I love the A's. As far as Sears, he's had some really, really good games. 3 out of his last 4 games, I think 20 or more fantasy points, including a couple of really big outbursts here, including his last game, which was also against the Los Angeles Angels. Now he gets a matchup against a team that while they don't strike out at the same rate, they really do very little else. They're not hitting home runs. They're not putting not expert at scoring runs. And it's a, park downgrade for them coming out of Minnesota. So I like JP Sears here as well.
Yeah, you got to like Sears here. I think I'm probably going to use him most likely on my main lineup. And I'm with you on the A's. I mean, Kai Busch, like you mentioned, just has not pitched well at AA, at AAA. He was pitching in the better pitching leagues as well. And listen, if you're healthy and pitching all year long and it takes you to August 5th to make an appearance for this White Sox team, it tells you a lot, doesn't it? Especially when you're 25, 26 years old. And the other thing I'll say about the A's, and this is, just I don't have the numbers to back this up, but doesn't it seem like when they go off, they really, really go off and just put up? They had that monster game against Chris Sale. Didn't they score like 22 runs or something against
in Atlanta? I think it was somewhere along the lines of 13, 14, somewhere in the neighborhood. The day some of us made the mistake of trying to use, I even forget the pitcher's name. I blocked him from
the Orioles lefty, right?
Yeah, the Orioles guy. They put up 22, a modest 22 run game. This is a spot for the A's. Remember, the other thing, DC, and I talk about this a lot. This is one of the things I've been trying to look at this year. They just faced the Dodgers staff for 3 days. So the Dodgers roll in there. Jack Flaherty yesterday or Saturday night. Now you get to face like these guys that have been bagging groceries for the last 3 months. So it's incredible. Cade Povich. See, I've erased his name from my memory. But yeah, this is a spot for the Oakland A's.
Yeah, Povich was the guy, like you mentioned, and I think Kai Busch has, frankly, a lot of similarities with Povich. I think they're both
left-handed,
soft tossing lefties who weren't doing that well, frankly, in the minor leagues. And I could see this going really, really poorly for Kai Busch. Of course, you have maybe the worst bullpen in baseball behind him, especially after the trades, like you mentioned. So I'm with you, JT. I'm loading up on some of these A's right-handed power, and they've got enough of it to do some damage. They've proven they can get it done in this park, and I'm with you. I'm in on the A's tonight. Let's talk about the last game on the slate. We'll of course do stacks, pitching, home runs, all that good stuff. After we talk about Philadelphia and the LA Dodgers, obviously important series here. It's going to be Tyler Glasnow going for the Dodgers. He's been pretty much lights out for most of the season. Hasn't pitched quite as well as of late, but still, I think, we're talking just raw fantasy projection for tonight. I think clearly the number one guy. And then Aaron Nola, I think, is going to come in second or third most popular pitcher on the slate. So we're going to see a lot of people with pitching on this last game of the night. Pretty low total, as you might expect. But, two pretty good offenses as well. Interesting game here. What are you doing, JT, with Phillies and Dodgers?
Yeah, so I want to talk. We talk about this game from a perspective of just pure talent, season numbers, right? You have Glasnow, who's the best pitcher on the slate. You have Aaron Nola, who is either the second or the third best pitcher on the slate, depending on what numbers you look at. Aaron Nola, 8,800 is a good price for him. He did have an outstanding game against this Dodger team when they faced them in Philadelphia about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And then you have Tyler Glasnow at 10-2. And you mentioned Glasnow recently, had a bit of a bounce back against the Padres last start. Not a lot of strikeouts because that's not the Padres thing. All right. Yeah. So you take all that out and just take a look at, on this slate against the Philadelphia Phillies, should any pitcher be 55% owned? And that is the part where I felt the same way yesterday with Paul Skeens against Arizona. It's like, I get that he's, one of the best pitchers in baseball this season, but man, 55% ownership against this team. Does that feel right to you in terms of what the Phillies can do? Now, the Phillies have been struggling. Much higher strikeout rate, 25 to 28% strikeout rate against right-handed pitchers over the course of the last 3 weeks, something like that. They do have immense power in this lineup, but it is a West Coast game at night. My lean here is, and we'll see, because the Dodgers may also get Freddie Freeman back this evening. Son was released from the hospital. Looks like he's on the mend. So if you play any bats from this game, you're going to be completely different. And for that reason, the bats are going to stay in my pool. I think I'm a little higher on Nola just because of the bottom half of this lineup for the Dodgers. And I think you play Glass now. I think we saw yesterday, DC, right? Even in a matchup and in a game where he didn't pitch well, with limited pitching on yesterday's slate, Paul Skeens still found his way into the winner with 11 fantasy points. So for me, I'm going to play these guys, and I'm going to focus on the other pitchers we talked about, have a smaller pitching pool, and really try and get the bats right. And then whatever the pitching does is whatever the pitching does.
Yeah, I think you make good points with just how he's the highest price pitcher. He's going to be the highest owned pitcher. And he has got a tough matchup. I know Phillies, like you mentioned, have been struggling. This is still I don't think we have the lineup yet, but assuming it's their normal lineup, still just a very, there's a lot of just legitimate all-star type bats in the lineup. I will say, if you're not playing Glass now, if he fails, I could see some of these Phillies getting there. Obviously, they've got, good hitters in general. They've got power. Glass now, also one of the easiest pitchers to steal bases against in the entire league. They've got some power. So, Trey Turner, Harper, Brandon Marsh, Real Muto, all those guys do have. Bryson Stott has speed. So I could see a scenario here where the Phillies get the job done. Will it be enough on this slate against Glass? No, probably not, of course, but that'll be reflected in the ownership. So I don't hate going to some of these Phillies bats if you are on the fade Glass now bandwagon. I'll have some of him, like you mentioned, but not going to go too crazy with Glass now myself. People asking about pinch hit risk for the A's. I assume Lawrence Butler will come in this game probably as soon as Kai Busch exits. I think Daz Cameron, the most likely guy to pinch hit leading off for the A's tonight. But Tyler Nevin and then Daryl Hernandez, I think, is a pinch hit risk as well for the A's. Probably butchered that name, but that's all right.
No, I think it's. I'm just glad because if those of you who are members are familiar, there's something called the Spark that comes out every day, and it's always an entertaining time. I'm not sure what drives the Spark. I tried to understand it a few years ago, and I couldn't. But I will tell you, and I don't think I'm giving away anything, DC. Do you think anyone will mind if I give the name at the top of the Spark? Do you think anyone would be upset that we're giving away, our intellectual property?
I'll give it the DC seal of approval to go ahead.
Okay. All right. So just so you guys know, do what you will with this information. The Spark, by the way, names at the top for pitchers supposed to be a guy who is likely to be the best points per dollar pitcher on the slate. That's Patrick Corbin.
Oh,
at the top of the Spark.
Maybe that's why.
It may be finally time to retire the Spark.
I'm jumping on the Giants. I gotta be on the Giants. Patrick Corbin is top of the Spark today. Good stuff there. That is all 8 games rather.
8 games.
Let's get to stacks. JT, your favorite stack on the night and your favorite contrarian stack. I think it's going to be a little bit spread out with hitting today. A lot of different ways you can go. But what are your favorite contrarian stack for us? Yeah,
Oakland and Boston are going to be the two teams that I am way over the field on, no matter what percentage. When we get off here and I start digging into my process to build my lineups, no matter what their percentage is, I'm going to be at least 3 times the field, if not more, over both of those teams.
Yeah, really hard to argue with that. I will go with, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going with the Giants against Patrick Corbin. Spark be damned. I really do like them, their chances, and certainly the hitting conditions in Washington, D.C. Going to play into that to some degree. I'm going to go with the Guardians as my contrarian stack against Zach Gallen. Wouldn't be surprised to see them put up a decent number at low ownership as well. yeah, pitching. Sounds like you're going to be more maybe in line with the field at pitcher, but who do you think is going to be your most important pitcher tonight, JT?
That's a good question. It's probably going to be JP Sears. Just the way that this shapes up for him. I think it might be JP Sears.
It's honestly kind of hard to argue with that. I think he's probably going to end up being my most important pitcher as well. I just don't like a lot of these arms tonight, JT. I got to be honest. It's a little bit hard to get away from some of the more popular plays. So I'll ride with you. JP Sears is going to be on my main lineup as well. Let's get to a home run call. Who's going deep tonight, JT?
I'm not going to go to the A's. I'm going to go to – there were other teams that we talked about that I liked. And you know what? You don't often see a catcher in the 2-hole. Gabby Moreno, home run.
All right. Going to the D-backs there. I like it. I'll go with my guy, James Wood, hitting fifth tonight for the Nationals against Logan Webb. I think he goes deep for the Nationals. More spark discussion from JP84 there. Final question, JT, then we will get on out of here. Your favorite overall hitter on the slate?
Yeah. For this, I will go back to our Oakland A's DC, and it's going to be Daz Cameron. I think you can run the bases here a little bit off of these guys. Kyle Busch, what you mentioned, he's essentially collecting Social Security, making his first start in the big leagues. He's going to get a little bit rattled out there in the Coliseum, and I think these guys are going to run and steal some bases on him.
I like it. I will go with it'd be a popular play, but Mr. Bobby Witt, obviously been on fire for much of the season, but especially recently, and I can't turn it down against JT. It sounds like that's not a JT approved pick, Bobby Witt.
That's insulting to the people. I mean, you can't take one of the highest known hitters and say like he's going to be. Come on, man.
All right. Josh Naylor. There we go. Josh Naylor. That's got it.
That's good. That's good. We're all good again.
All right. That'll do it for this show. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you see some RPS logos up top in the tourneys as usual. And the show will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Appreciate all you guys watching. As always, for JT, I'm DC. We're out of here.